Hi, welcome to Gaia Perspective. My name is Nicole Oman and I'm here with Mimi Clark. So today we are talking about embodying your sexual nature. This has been coming up so much in both of our lives and with my clients, and really allowing ourselves to find our power in our sexual nature once again. This is more important than you can even imagine. Uh, to to have all these amazing spiritual lessons, we need to embody and integrate the power of our sexuality once again. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, and hopefully, you will be inspired or enlightened, maybe, to help your own sexual nature. So, Mimi, we had a whole talk about this even before we recorded, and now I'm like, where do we begin? We have so much in this juicy nugget.
It's coming up to begin. Let's begin at the beginning. Let's begin with Adam and Eve. Because for me, so much of me holding back any of my sexual energy, it begins with religion. And so before we were here, I was just talking about like Adam and Eve and, how I think God knows, God as creator knows who we are. So God as creator filled us with primal energy, primal sexual energy, primal curiosity. And then it's like, here's a beautiful red, delicious and luscious. And here it is, but don't touch it. And that's what I feel like we kind of do with our sexuality. It's like, oh, this powerful energy that it's going to drive you. You're going to create from it, but don't use it. Just put it on there on the shelf. Just put it aside. And I think that's so unreasonable. So Adam and Eve had a bite of the apple or the pomegranate. And I like the story that Lilith, one unto herself, came and was like, hey, you want to know yourself. You want to know this world? Do this. And Lilith energy is like that Shakti energy coming through. There's more to create. And so I feel like that's where it starts. I like Nikki said, beforehand, but you didn't hear. It's just so silly to think with human nature that there would be something there and that we wouldn't touch it, use it. And I feel like that's where the shame began. The shame in women with that Eve stuff. Like whether you're religious or not, I feel like that Eve story encompasses the world, like the way the world is, oh, women don't make as much in the workplace, oh, the Planned Parenthood, stuff. And so how are we still living that, where we're holding ourselves back? Oh, it's shameful. We did something wrong once upon a time. We as women did something wrong once upon a time. So that's where I think we should begin.
Well, I think that's a great way of beginning, but there's also a reason why this patriarch society has told that story over and over and over and over, and ingraining each generation with the woman did something wrong, the woman did something wrong. And you can go into it in many different layers, but the woman has a body part. We have a body part on us that is just for pleasure. There is nothing more or nothing less that the clitoris does. It is for pleasure. And why the heck are we given this body part? Because we're supposed to use it. It's like, oh, have this, but don't use it. And to piggyback off of what Mimi said, it's God created our nature. And to get somebody to do something, tell them not to do it. Hey, don't eat that. It's there, but don't do it. And it's like, don't push the red button. And there's also part of the story is if you eat that fruit, you will know as much as I do. And so we had to step into a new placement and be able to get to know ourselves in another way. So having the story over and over is being told over and over again by the patriarch, because we know for the last, well, this cycle of human existence, because I actually believe that we've had other cycles of human existence before this, but in this cycle of human existence, we've always been a patriarch. We've always been masculine dominated, our minds, the consciousness. And I think in chakras, the heart is balanced, and these three are more connected to the masculine. And the brain, we always put all of our focus and all of the importance on the brain. The brain's the computer. It's the wisest thing in the world. And if we go anywhere deep into spirituality, you start to realize that the mind is only a computer. It really is. And the consciousness underneath the mind, the pineal gland, where they say it's called the seat of the soul, and that's also where, you can lucid dream and all of that. It's not actually part of the brain. The brain encases the pineal gland. It's a gland. It's part of the limbic system. It's more emotional. Well, there you go, right? But the brain itself is encasing. I'm getting heady, but whatever. Literally. And so it's encasing, it's protecting that part. So the third eye is that pineal gland. And that is important, but it's not the brain. Not the brain. The heart, yes, very important. But one thing that we forget is these last three, right? Or the first three, really. The first three. Why are we forgetting the first? We have 1, 2, 3. We have the root chakra, we have the sacral chakra, and we have the solar plexus. And these are more feminine in nature. And this is also where we create. This is our womb. This is creation. This is sexuality. And in spirituality, sometimes we forget this. And then others, the people who are totally into spirituality, they only claim pleasure. They only claim materialism. And they forget the higher wisdom. But to have both in balance, that is spiritual enlightenment. That is being fully present as a human and a divine being at the same time. But it's both. And we have to have our sexual pleasure. We have to have creation, literally sexuality, to keep creating on this planet, to keep creating our experience on this planet. That's the way that life works.
What came up for me when you were just talking about the clitoris and the pineal gland, it's like they're actually balanced points of each other. They actually imitate each other when you think about it. I never really thought about it in that way, but that just came up very clearly for me as you were talking about both of them. And so we have that feminine point down there holding that energy, carrying that Shakti energy, and then that pineal gland up here. And, there's so many ancient practices, tantric sex, that do talk about bringing that energy, like you like to say in that figure 8, the infinitely like between the two of them. So it's really cool. And I really feel like when I started exploring the universe, I was like, wow, the universe is a gigantic orgasm. How can you say sexuality is something that we don't want when the universe, it's constantly expanding, just in the way I think that's what an orgasm does. It expands you. It opens you up in a new way to accept, bring in energy. It's actually a powerful creation tool. So as above, so below. This is something we're meant to embrace. But why haven't we? Let's get into some more things. Why haven't we? Why don't we? And what happens when we don't? Why don't you take this? Kick it off.
Well, my understanding of why haven't we is because of the own suppressive nature that we have on the planet right now. So there's a lot of different theories of why we're at where we are, but we definitely have an imbalance of masculine energy, not balanced with the feminine. So when you have that, what becomes important is structure, logic, all these different things. and the sexual, creative, and destructive nature. We're all scared of change and destruction, but that's part of creation. Something has to be destroyed to be created. So there's some fear around this pattern, or this fear around this power that we have, because the structure wants to keep the chaos down. It wants to take control. So what I think why we're so suppressed is because of fear. It's completely because of fear, because the raw sexual nature, if imbalanced on the other end, can cause a lot of turmoil, can cause a lot of chaos. But in balance, it can create everything that we've seen. That's the universe. It's complete balance. It's yin and yang. But on this planet, somewhere along, it's the masculine energy has taken control. And so how can we get it back online for ourselves? That's the big question. And it's putting the importance of balance. It's not just putting more, like, let's pendulum swing, which us humans, we do a lot. And that might happen, and then you'll start destroying things, and that's okay, because you'll end up, the feminine goes, oh, I'm destroying things, I need to pull it. So if we can find balance, I think that's a big thing. What do you think, Mimi?
I definitely think finding the balance, allowing ourselves, I think it's about empowering yourself. And of course, it's funny because we're empowering via knowledge. We're empowering this way, getting into the body. And I brought one of my favorite tools, two of my favorite tools, because I have two of them, for empowerment. I love working with earth energy. These are yoni eggs, rose quartz, and Dalmatian jasper. I'm going to use the rose quartz because it's lovely and pink. And my friend actually sells these. She has a great, I forget what the website is, of course, like yoniegg.com or something like that, but great company where she sells these. And her slogan is, you put them where? Which I love. And this has been one of my tools in reworking the shame around my sexual energy. I grew up in a very Catholic house. It was not spoken about. My mom tried to give me the sex talk at 18, and she called it relations. And she's like, there's just something that happens when men and women are together. And like, that was basically it. And I was like, oh, just stop, because I'd been through hell. It was like horrible, but like, it goes back deeper than that. It goes back so much deeper than that. Things I'm not at liberty to completely discuss. But when I was little, we had a book about sexuality and how babies are made and all that. And it was sitting in the bookshelf. And I was like, whoa, what is this? This is an amazing process. So curious. I would get that book out and look through it all the time as a little child. And I mean, it wasn't filled with graphic pictures. Like, it had the baby in the womb and that kind of thing. I was like, this is fascinating. I was fascinated by it. And my mom, like, to this day, will look back and like, was somebody inappropriate with you? Was somebody inappropriate? You were always so fascinated with that book. And I'm like, wouldn't it be normal for me to be fascinated with something that is a natural process, something that we're all born with? You know, this energy, this creation energy. It would make sense that I would be like, this is amazing. Look at this amazing planet. And everything around sexuality is like, well, why would you be into that in our family? And like I said, it goes back so much deeper into so much shame around sexuality. So much that I brought in somebody that I loved so much, but anytime we were intimate, he would freak out. Oh, we're going to hell. Because there was probably a part of that in me. I mean, I was like, I love you. I'm just acting from that place. And so we got to look at that shame and we got to offer it love. And this is one of my tools for offering myself love and recognizing this normalness in accepting it as myself, just the way animals, like monkeys in the zoo, they do not care if you're standing there. I have had monkeys masturbate in front of me. I have had them have sex in front of me. Monkeys are all over the place with it. But we as humans are like, oh, no, no. And I feel like one of the things I really wanted to talk about is I feel like this is actually a form of abuse. I feel like a lot of us are running around having been sexually abused, not even by being touched or violated, but sexual abuse through shame. And I look at Josh Duggar, and this is Josh Duggar and Bristol Palin, I think, are two great examples. Josh Duggar has, his story is so sad to me, and it doesn't make up for what he's done. What he's done is not okay, but it's that primal energy that's been trapped and needs to be released. And Bristol Palin, she's like, abstinence, abstinence. Oh, here's a baby. Abstinence, abstinence. Oh, here's another one. And people are still shaming her for something that's actually very normal. And so we gotta look at this shame that we're carrying in ourselves, because it's just a reflection of our own shame, you know? One final thing that you can get your own conclusions from. I used to grow up when I was little. I was a tiny human, very skinny. Like, I was 30 pounds in the first grade. And my mom would put me in dresses. And if they were not like tight fitting, if they were not like showing that I was a very tiny human, I was like, oh, I can't wear this. People are going to think that I'm pregnant. From the time I was 3, 4 years old, I was walking around like, oh, nope, people are going to think I'm pregnant. I can't wear this. Gain your own conclusions. It's not a story I'm at liberty to share beyond my part in it, which is that's my part. But I think that there's some ancestral shame that I was still carrying, processing. I know there was. And so we gotta get this. Nikki?
Well, yeah, I want to go back to Josh and Bristol, because they're really interesting mirrors of what's going on. Because I really do think that perversion is born out of suppression. And when we suppress our natural tendency, or we shame that part, or that is, that's the way that we're taught, but we also have these very primal instincts. And I'm not saying to go and perform every primal instinct that you have. That's why there's balance. That's why there's, you need to see, if you're opposing your will on somebody, that is another whole karmatic yucky mess. But I think a lot of times we oppose our will on someone else is because a lot of perversion comes out of feeling powerless. And when we suppress this energy, we feel powerless. And the only way that people get to the point of opposing their power or their will on someone else. They feel so powerless that they pendulum swing, and they go to the other side of the coin and they impose power. And then that becomes perversion. And then molestation and those things come about. And then molestation and perversion births more molestation and perversion. And so what we have to do is we have to stop. We have to stop the cycle of insanity and start really healing the shame that we have. And one of the big things, and I talked about this last week on Jenny Watson's show, Confessions, is I had to deal with my own shame around sexuality. And it was around, I definitely had a lot of slut shaming in high school. I was a very naturally flirty person. Coming out of the womb, I was like, I am boy crazy. That's just the way I was. My daughter's very boy crazy, and she watches all these Disney movies, and every movie they kiss. And so, she wants to kiss boys on the mouth already. And it's like, I have to find my own balance of what I tell her is appropriate, but also, she tells people, I love you, and her heart's just like, it's there, it's raw, and it's beautiful, and it's not hurting anybody. But we do have to find that balance, because she is so open and loving to everybody that it's like, parents are like, why is she kissing boys? And it's like, because she watches that all the time. And me and my husband, her daddy, we are affectionate. We're not inappropriately affectionate, but we want to share our love. And I don't think that I should apologize for being loving in front of my daughter, because I think we need to express more versions of our love. And the only reason, too, shame begots more shame. So Bristol has a lot of shame around it. That's why she keeps regurgitating abstinence, but that's not what she's practicing. And the reason why she's getting so much shame is because she's saying one thing, but her body is doing another. And Josh Duggar is this person who was born under massive amounts of restriction. And he's a boy, and he did this when he was younger, and he's a boy with hormones flowing. And I'm not, by the way, I am not condoning what he did was okay. I am not at all. But he had all these hormones flowing through him, and he didn't have any appropriate person to talk to. And he didn't have an appropriate way to release that energy. So it went on to his siblings. And that's when the perversion starts. Because right now in our world, we don't really have appropriate systems. We don't have appropriate outlets. People are shamed for masturbation. Self-love, man, like I'm down, whatever. If I had a teenage boy, they're not hurting anybody. Their hormones are raging. What are you going to do, But the problem is right now, because of all the sexual shaming on this internet thing that's good and bad, we have a lot of really bad training videos. And I mean porn. We have really bad, fucked up, excuse my language, porn on the internet right now. There is like bestiality and perversion and child stuff and just, my throat is going, like as I'm talking about it, because it's out of alignment. And we're not setting, because we have our own shame, and we're not setting up structures and appropriate boundaries. Because I love the boundary. I have a Scorpio moon. I love the boundaries. Give me some boundaries, and you put that raw energy into those boundaries, and you give them a healthy place to pull up all of this stuff. Now we have massive amounts of ancestral lineage, thousands of years of just garbage, what we've done to women, rape, men, just perversion, that we have to unravel too. That's fun. Have fun with that. And then we have to build up more structure. And I think the first thing that we need to do is start unraveling our own stuff. Where do we show up for it? And what is shown up in our lives so we can show up for ourselves? Because it's not a victim thing. You can stay in victim for your sexual perversion that has happened in your life. Or you can show up for it and start unraveling it, and start unraveling the stuff that has happened to you, so you can see where it came from, and you can clear it, clean it, and start anew. Because that's where your power lives. But if you stay in the victim of the shame and the pain of your sexual stuff, there is no blossoming. Literally too, because the yoni, right? The yoni is such a flower. But we have to go through the darkness, those cracks. A seed starts in the ground, and it has to move through the soil and find its way up to be strong enough to blossom. So we had to have our darknesses.
There's a flowering card sitting right here in front of me.
So yeah, it's one of those things of we have to allow our darknesses to help us blossom, because the more that we can blossom in ourselves, the more you can hold that vibration of blossoming and healing for other people to learn, and B, you can teach it. Because I tell my story of how I processed my shame of slut shaming, and the only way that I healed from the slut shaming is when I admitted to the things I did. I wasn't being judged from any higher power. I was being judged by myself because some program said it was wrong. I was young and I didn't know any better. And even if I did, I was acting out on pure raw sexuality. And I was also acting out on feeling abandoned by my parent, my father, the masculine energy. So I was looking for validation through this way. And when I owned it and I took responsibility and I told my husband, I came completely clean of everything that I've done past, even in our relationship. You know, and there was all that muck. There's muck. But more than that, it was shame. Mm-hmm. Yes, I did stuff. On one level, yeah, I had to deal with that. On another level, I had to deal with the shame. And when I cleared the shame, guess who accepted me? He didn't want to leave me. He accepted me. He loved me. And if they can't accept that, that means that they're mirroring to you that they can't accept their own shame yet. But it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. But you got to clear it. And then when you're clear, when that clears, you can make new decisions on how you want to be empowered by your own sexual nature. Because then you don't, when you realize what you're doing, oh, I like being validated by men. So I'm trying to fill my daddy-shaped hole. Then I got to make a decision who and what I really wanted to put in my body. And I wasn't having sex for validation anymore. Because I owned it. I owned that I did it, and I cleared the shame. So if, you know, I mean, it's work. I'm not going to say it was easy. I'm not going to say everything was like, oh yeah, I did that and everything was happy. But it was empowering. And now I get to tell my story and be more in integrity and not be shamed for that. If people want to shame me, I'm like, all right, you can shame me for my past decisions, but you're probably not, because I'm not triggered. I'm not triggered, but I'm not hooked too much by it anymore. You know, let me just say, there are still stuff. I mean, it's not like, woo, I'm perfect now. I'm still like, oh, there's trust around sexuality. Oh, there's this. There's me not wanting pleasure because I don't trust pleasure fully yet. So there is still stuff that comes out, but it's that initial shame. And the more you take ownership of your part, not theirs, but the one that you're bringing into the moment, that's when you can heal. And that's when it blossoms. And then you can take more power and empowerment on your sexual experience.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's so nice. Like, I love this. We tried to do this one, like, forever ago, like months ago, when we first started Gaia Perspectives, and it didn't work out. And that was when Saturn was leaving Scorpio. And here we are with the sun moving into Scorpio and a whole bunch of planets that are going to be following behind in Scorpio. It is the sign of transformation. It is the sign of death and rebirth. It is the sign of power. And it is the sign of sexuality. So here we are. Not to say that you need this energy behind you to help you shift this, but here you are with this planetary energy coming in to help you shift, to help you work, to help you empower and embrace. And I do feel like you feel when the moon came into Scorpio the other day, and I was like, whoo, feminine energy volcano through me. I was like, wow, that was amazing. And I feel like that's what's going to happen if you allow it during this Sun in Scorpio. You're going to feel that energy moving in and through you. And hopefully you'll be empowered by this talk, by anything else that we put out during that time, by anything that's in your life, to look at it, work through it, you know, in ways that come up for you. Be honest with yourself and empower yourself because there's nothing to be ashamed of. And if you are carrying shame, it's time for all of us to let that shame go. I just feel like so much of the shame, it's not ours. It reminds me of the Osho card, the projections card, the conditioning card. It's these projections and these conditions. And I love, there's a saying out there, I don't remember who it is, but it's basically, if we all sit down and shared our shame, we'd kind of be ashamed at how not unique our shame is. We would be like, oh, you did that too. Oh, that was your experience too? None of us here, Nikki and I said this beforehand, none of us are angels. We are all angels, but we're not here to be human angels because we already got that vibration down. You know how to do that. You know how to be that pure light. You gotta bring in that balance and be human and live your life and find that balance.
It's funny because I'm actually synchronistically eating a pomegranate, and I didn't even realize it. I was like, oh, I came online with Mimi, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm eating pomegranate. She's like, of course. So, you know, and it's one of those, I love what Mimi says because it's so true. It's like, if we just sat down and talked about our shame, you're going to realize that everybody's going through the same stupid shame and we're just not talking about it. So we're in the shame closet thinking we're isolated and we're the only ones that are going through it because we're so self-important, because we're so special and different in our shame. We're not. We're not. We're not. You know, yes, yours might look a little different than mine. Yeah, I went through the validation. Some people are going maybe through the molestation one. Some are going through the religious one. Some are dealing with it in different ways. Some are being abstinent. Even abstinence can be a sexual form, just like mine was. I don't want to, yeah, I mean, I was a little more open with mine, that's for sure. I was a little bit more trying to seek validation in that way. And some people shut it down completely, where they don't want to have sex because it's safer that way. And that's just as big, the opposite, but it's just as painful because we don't want to share ourselves in that way. And then, you know, I've talked to people who have been in relationships for 25 years that haven't had sex with their husband for 19 years. And they're shameful of that. And I go, there's nothing to be shameful of it. It's time to take ownership of it and decide whether or not you want to stay in that shame and have that deeper connection and what is blocking you from that intimacy. Why can't you go there? It's not to be shamed. There's so many women that go through that. And they're like not telling anybody. But when they talk to each other, then they go, oh my God, you do that too? We haven't had, you know, we haven't been intimate in 10 years. And I thought I was the only one going through that. And it's like, no, we're all going through our way and we all process it in our own way. But we all are going through this shame. And so if we just be a little bit more, you know, you don't have to shout it from the rooftops. You don't have to put every intimate detail of your sexual nature online, but when you start sharing in safer places, especially safe places, spiritual things and more, because you got to be a little, I have to say, you do have to be a little careful because some people are still so locked in their shame that they will end up shaming you. And until you get to a place kind of where I don't take it so personally anymore, if they do like judge me for my past, okay, judge me for my past. What do you want? I mean, okay, I cleared a lot of it, so it doesn't break me open like it does. Because when you're a newbie and you're first starting to put your stuff on the table, you want to do it with someone who's not going to shame you more, because you don't want to get buried even more. I wouldn't go talk to a masculine priest at a Catholic.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't do that. But there are a lot of tantric support groups, things like that, you know, they don't have to be all the way on the other end that are like free love, baby. Because I'm not a free lover, to be honest with you. I think we're all mirrors, and if you're just projecting all of your issues on many different people, it's the same as projecting it onto one. But with one, you can go a little deeper with those issues. So, you know, I'm not a free lover. So you don't have to go to that either. You're like, oh, I don't want to be like this hippie commune and have sex with everybody. Not telling you to. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to look like that. But what I am saying is to clear it in the way that you feel like you feel empowered by it. Because if you're a woman watching this, you're the one with the power. I think that's why it's been shut down for so long. Because men are very scared of that raw, potent, sexual nature that we carry. They can't have a baby without us. They couldn't populate the race. But we can. We can populate the race. And because we have that raw, creative nature, there's a lot of power. And if you can feel into that and you can own that, you are, I mean, it's kind of silly, it's Ghostbusters, but the key master and the gatekeeper, you are the gatekeeper. You are the one that gets to decide what genes survive on the planet. You are the one that dictates. Like, look at the animal kingdom, right? They have to be like, have the best dance, some of the birds, or the biggest feathers, or they have to be the strongest or the smartest for the female to want to mate with it. And I want to tell you, women, you can be selective. You don't want to procreate every male on the planet. I promise you that, because we have to carry it for 9 months, and you want this baby to have not just the most genetic, like physical genetics to be the best. You want to make sure that you are in integrity, because then that baby will be more intelligent, stronger, healthier. And that's how we continue to make this planet better. Be the gatekeeper. I hope that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. It's so good. I feel really good about everything that we said. I feel like this is a great foundation to jump off of for all of us, to just look at this, to empower ourselves and be willing to show up for that lower energy, our feminine energy, our Shakti energy, and let it come through, and stop looking at it like it's something that should not be there. We gotta stop shitting on the feminine energy and let her bloom.
Yeah. Own it. Own your lusciousness, and own your sexuality, and own your power, because I'll tell you what, you're like a flower that has bloomed, like we keep saying. When it's fragrant, all the bees will come and all the, life begins. It's not to be shamed, and it's not to be shameful. Be luscious. And then if you don't like that bee, you can just do this. And then, like the lotus when the sun comes out. Oh, the sun's here. Oh, that one's cloudy. So, so own that beautiful lusciousness of yourself. And if you are clouded by dirt and seeds and all of this stuff of shame, it's time to clear and forgive. Forgive yourself. Forgive many lineages of garbage that we've come onto. Forgive all of that. And just be beautiful as you. Just own you. Own you. Yes. Okay. So, are you complete? Do you feel complete?
I feel good. I feel like we did a really great start. I feel like we'll come back around another time for more, but I feel like this is a great beginning to blooming.
Gaia blooming. So, but and I want to. I was a little hesitant there in the beginning. I was like, what? Where are we going with this? And then it started to flow really good. And I think there's some really great information in this. If you resonate with this message and you feel like there is a woman in your life or a man in your life that needs a little bit more guidance or yourself, to break through some of this shame and some of this kind of that's going on, let them watch this. Guide other people to these messages, because it's not going off the deep end. It's really finding the integrity of where we need to take this, take your sexuality. And I think it's all about integrity. And so if you feel like you resonate, please share, like, tell someone about us. We love giving this information because we love doing the work ourselves. And you need a little extra help and a little extra support. I'm always doing deals. I always work on a sliding scale. If you need me, you need some extra support, or Mimi, please, it's at GaiaBlooming.com, NicoleOmen.com. You can check us out on Facebook on each one of those too. And reach out. You know, this is our work. It's what we love to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And, you know, if you feel like you can, share your story with us too. You know, like, you can send it in a private message. You can, if you feel confident, put it down below in the comments of YouTube. We always are checking out our messages and responding and tuning in, because we're all in this together. And I think that's probably the final thing to end on is, like, I feel like as women, we got to stop shaming each other and band together.
Yep. The woman thing, the woman thing, we need to come together, because us backstabbing each other and all of this, like, I can go in for another hour on this, but it's like one of those things of women, we need to support each other, not pull each other down. Just because someone has the man doesn't mean you're not going to find yours. So it's like we need to all chill out and really support each other and realize, because we love when someone else, it's a nature thing, as we're tearing each other down. And if we can shift that and really start supporting, I think we can turn this thing around. But that's a big part of healing the feminine energy on this planet. So thank you for bringing that in.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed our message. Keep an eye out for more. Please like, share, subscribe. Sign up for my newsletter. You can find that at NicoleOmen.com. Also, GaiaBlooming.com. Check out, Mimi does a whole ton cool, great astrology readings every day. And I do a daily guidance. So check us out. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Namaste.